Welcome to a new hand from Jonathan Little's The Complete Poker Workout. This is hand number 3. We are playing a $10,000 WSOP tournament, 9-handed, early stage. Everyone has about 50,000 chips, which is more than 300 big blinds effective. The action starts with a limp from UTG +1. Everyone folds to you in the small blind. You look down at ace-5 of spades. What is the best play here? Do you fold? Do you call? Or do you raise? And if you raise, what sizing makes the most sense? Pause the video, think through the spot, then hit play when you're ready to continue. Welcome back. Jonathan says that both calling and raising are acceptable options here. I disagree. With ace-5 suited, the value of the hand comes from its playability and its nut potential. You can make the nut flush, you can make a very disguised wheel straight, you can also make strong 2-pair or trips with the best kicker. So from the small blind against a limper, I do not want to just call and play passively. AceSolver recommends a raise here, and the sizing is very close to Jonathan's proposed 700. AceSolver chooses 675, so using 700 is perfectly reasonable. The key point is isolation. If you just call, you give up the initiative. You also give the big blind a very cheap opportunity to enter the pot. Now, instead of isolating the limper, you are likely going multi-way to the flop, out of position, without control of the hand. That is not what we want. With ace-5 suited, we want to apply pressure, build the pot with a high potential hand, and isolate the original limper. In the range analysis, ace-5 suited is clearly a raise. A hand like ace-6 suited can be more reasonable as a call, because it makes fewer wheel straights, but ace-5 suited performs better as an aggressive isolation raise. So we raise to 700, following Jonathan's scenario. The big blind calls, and the original limper also calls. The flop comes. King of hearts, 2 of spades, 2 of clubs. Now, what should you do? Should you check? Should you bet? And if you bet, how much? Pause the video, think through the spot, then hit play when you are ready to continue. Welcome back. On this flop, Jonathan says the board does not connect very well with the other players' ranges. I disagree. UTG +1 can absolutely have kings in his range. He can have hands like king-queen, king-jack, king-10, king-9 suited, and plenty of other loose limping hands, especially early in a tournament. The big blind can also have some deuces. Ace-deuce suited is possible, and in these early stages, you will sometimes see players call with very loose suited hands from the big blind. So I do not want to assume this board is automatically safe just because it looks dry. Look at our actual hand. Right now, we have ace-high, a backdoor nut flush draw, and a backdoor straight draw. That's it. We are out of position against 2 players. We tried to isolate preflop, but both players called. That matters. They are not entering the flop with nothing, especially UTG +1. So this is not a spot where I want to build a large pot with very low current equity. AceSolver's range analysis prefers a check here. Checking controls the pot and preserves flexibility. We can still continue on favorable turns, but we do not force ourselves into a bigger pot out of position with just ace-high. If we bet, it should be a very small stab, something like 10 to 25% of the pot, but that bet is not for value. It is mainly trying to fold out hands that missed completely, especially from the big blind. In Jonathan's example, Hero bets 600. With a pot of 2,250 or 15 big blinds, that is about 25% pot, so it is still a small continuation bet. The big blind folds. The original UTG +1 limper calls. The turn is the 8 of clubs. Action is back to you. What should you do now? Do you check? Do you bet? And if you bet, what size? Pause the video, think through the spot, then hit play when you are ready to continue. On this turn, the situation becomes much more difficult. Remember the action. UTG +1 limped preflop. We raised from the small blind to about 5 big blinds, which is a large isolation raise. The big blind called and UTG +1 called as well. Then on the flop, we led for a small continuation bet. The big blind folded, but UTG +1 called again. That call matters. UTG +1 has now continued twice. Once preflop against a large raise, and once on the flop against our bet, so we should not assume he is floating with complete air. Now the turn is the 8 of clubs, and our hand has not improved. We still have ace-high. We no longer have a backdoor flush draw or a backdoor straight draw. Realistically, we are hoping to hit an ace or a 5 on the river, but those outs are not perfectly clean. A 5 will often not be enough. An ace may sometimes be good, but it is not guaranteed, especially against a range that can contain kings, pocket pairs, and some slow-played hands. So yes, we could bet again, but this is a difficult barrel. We are out of position, we have very little equity, and villain has already shown interest in the pot. This is exactly the kind of spot where you need to be careful not to keep firing just because you were the pre-flop aggressor. To conclude, I disagree with Jonathan's recommendation on the turn. Jonathan suggests betting 2,000 chips, and in the example, the opponent folds. So yes, the bet wins the pot. But winning the pot does not automatically mean the play was correct. This is the difference between a good result and a good process. On the turn, our hand has very little equity. We are out of position, and UTG+1 has already called a large pre-flop raise and a flop bet. So, if we decide to bet again, the sizing needs to be carefully controlled. AceSolver does allow betting some percentage of the time, but when it bets, it prefers a much smaller size, around 850 to 900 chips. Betting 2,000 is about 60% pot, and that is too large for this situation. So yes, the opponent folds, the pot is won, but I think the turn bet is too aggressive, too large, and not well supported by the actual hand strength. For me, there are two key takeaways from this hand. First, pre-flop, ace-5 suited should mostly be played aggressively as an isolation raise, not as a passive call. Second, once we get called on the flop and the turn does not improve us, we need to slow down. Continuing with a large barrel out of position, with only ace-high and very little equity, is not the best process. So congratulations to Jonathan. The pot was won, but from an AceSolver perspective, the line is not clean. The pre-flop raise is good, the flop bet is already debatable, and the large turn bet is the biggest mistake in the hand. I'll see you soon for hand number 4, which promises to be a big pot alert.